Welcome back to the Pat's Answers podcast, where common sense seeks shelter from idiots. Today's episode is brought to you by a magical product called political advertising, the only known substance in America that can survive without nutrition, sunlight, shame, or a detectable relationship with reality. Now, if you sell a pill that melts belly fat while you sleep, the government may ask you for evidence. If you sell a truck and lie about the mileage, somebody may have questions. If you call a toaster that bursts into flames, sell it, and call it democracy toast, regulators may wander over the clipboard. But if you sell voters a political claim wrapped in ominous music, grainy black and white photos, and a narrator who sounds like he gargles gravel, apparently that's not false advertising. That's robust public debate. Now, isn't that precious? Here's the trick. Commercial advertisers are supposed to tell the truth. The FTC says ads must be truthful, not misleading, and backed up when evidence is required. That's the rule for cereal, mattresses, miracle creams, payday loans, and most of the usual carnival barking that makes American commerce such a spiritual activity and experience. But political ads? Political ads get the velvet rope. Yep. The FCC says it generally does not review or pre-approve political ads, does not ensure the accuracy of statements made by candidates and issue advertisers, and does not require broadcasters to present all sides of controversial issues. Translation: the referee is in the building, but he ain't calling the foul. And if the ad is from a legally qualified candidate on broadcast television or radio, broadcasters face an even stranger rule. Under federal law, once a station allows a candidate use, the station has no power of censorship over that candidate's material. No power of censorship. That phrase sounds noble until you realize it can also mean, congratulations, the lie has purchased airtime. Now, yes, there are rules. Political ads generally have to say who paid for them. The FEC requires disclaimers on many public communications by political committees, and those disclaimers must be clear and conspicuous. So, we may not get truth, but by George, we get a tiny little tag at the end telling us which committee rented the fog machine. Paid for by citizens of something that sounds patriotic, but has a P.O. box and 3 billionaires behind it. That's wonderful and very cleansing. Yep. Missouri has election laws too. For example, Missouri makes it an election offense to print or circulate false and fraudulent sample ballots that appear designed to defraud voters. That's good. Actually, that's excellent. I'm against fraudulent ballots. That's a bold position, I know. But that's not the same thing as a broad law saying every misleading political ad gets yanked off the air and dragged into the sunlight by its ankles. The system is much more comfortable saying, well, if it's bad enough, maybe sue for defamation. And that brings us to another brick wall. If a public official claims defamation, the Supreme Court's New York Times versus Sullivan standard generally requires proof of actual malice, that the statement was made knowing it was false or with reckless disregard for whether it was true. Now, that's a high bar. Not they were sloppy, not they were nasty, not they twisted the facts until those facts needed a chiropractor. Actual malice. So the political lie does not need to be innocent. It just needs to be professionally insulated. And that's the scandal. Not that people lie in politics, please. People have lied in politics since the second caveman promised lower taxes on mammoths. The scandal is that we built a marketplace where a shampoo bottle may be held to a higher truth standard than a campaign ad aimed at deciding who writes laws, appoints judges, controls budgets, and reshapes people's lives. A bottle of cold medicine has to be careful. A political ad can kick down your door, spill fear all over the carpet, point at a neighbor, a teacher, a judge, a ballot measure, or a candidate and say, trust us. Trust you? Trust you? You hired a narrator who sounds like the ghost of foreclosures past. You edited 3 words from a 12-minute speech. You put lightning behind a school board member. You used footage from another state, another year, maybe another planet, and then called it what they don't want you to know. Of course they don't want us to know it. It may not be true. This is the shell game. Disclosure gets treated like accountability, but paid for by is not a confession. It's not verification. It's not a label of truth. It's a name tag on a pickpocket. Imagine if your local restaurant worked this way. Tonight's special may contain salmonella, roofing nails, and 3 false claims about property taxes. But don't worry, the menu clearly says who paid for it. No. In every other part of civic life, we understand that disclosure is not the same as honesty. But in politics, somehow, the official remedy for being misled is let the voter figure it out. Perfect. The voter. The voter who worked 10 hours, picked up groceries, helped with homework, sorted medical bills, dodged robocalls, and now has 30 seconds to fact check a super PAC with more money than a small nation. That's not a marketplace of ideas. That's a food fight in a library with the lights off. Now, let's be clear. The First Amendment matters. Political speech deserves strong protection. The government should not become a ministry of truth, deciding which opinions may survive until breakfast. But facts matter too. There's a difference between opinion and fabrication. There's a difference between harsh criticism and calculated deception. There is a difference between we think this policy is dangerous and here is a claim we know is false, but it tests well with anxious voters in counties we need by Tuesday. That's not representative government. That's pest control for truth. So when you see one of these ads, don't just ask, do I agree? Ask, who paid for this? What exactly did they claim? Is it sourced? Is it edited? Is it emotional wallpaper covering an empty room? Is it asking me to think or just flinch? Because the people buying these ads already know the loophole. They know that commercial advertising has truth rules. They know that political advertising has armor. They know broadcasters often are not the truth police. They know disclosure rules identify the buyer more than the lies they tell. And they're counting on us to mistake volume for evidence. Don't. When a political ad screams, whisper back, prove it. When it waves a flag, ask who bought the poll. When it says paid for by, read that not as a formality, with the return address on the manure spreader. Because if they can lie to get power, they will lie with power. You're listening in English while they're talking in deception. And if that sentence makes anyone uncomfortable, good. Maybe discomfort is the first honest political ad that you've heard all week. Don't just watch the ad, audit it. I'm Pat Kansoer, and this has been Pat's Answers.